Hey, so what if the United States had a presidential system similar to the Bosnia and Herzegovina, in that it had three separate presidencies, in this case for the three regions? Well, here's my scenario. I think the first two political parties, the Federalists and Republicans, would exist in both the North and the South, the first two regions. The first divergence would be in 1812, where the Northern Federalists and Republicans would merge under DeWitt Clinton into the Federal Republicans, with only very few straight Federalists under Rufus King remaining separate, but eventually collapsing. Meanwhile, in the South, the Federalists would dissolve, and the old Republicans, more classically liberal and pro-decentralization than even the Jeffersonians, would split off from the Republicans. I think in 1824, the old Republicans under William H. Crawford would face the newly formed faction of the old Republicans known as the Liberal Republicans under Andrew Jackson, which has some parts of the old Republican of the Republican Party, and then the National Republicans, which is most of the most of the Republican Party, would be under Henry Clay. So we have those three candidates. I think Andrew Jackson would probably win there. In 1828, the old Republicans would dissolve, and the Liberals and Nationals would drop the Republican part of their name, make it less long-winded. These two parties would continue to the modern day, with some major changes to their ideologies. The North would be run by the Federal Republicans as an essentially one-party state. Most of the competition is in the primaries. After the Mexican-American War, debate over the Mexican cession and what region it should go to, North or South, as well as over slavery, leads to the formation of the Federal Radical Republicans under John C. Fremont, who win in 1856. Now, this leads to the Civil War occurring 4 years earlier between the divided Northern and Southern presidencies, because Fremont, a radical Republican, and I guess it would be Breckinridge, very far-right liberal, they can't just coexist. They're just so different. And so, after the North wins in 1861, slavery is abolished and the West is introduced as a region run by radicals. In the Grant era, the radicals in the North split into stalwarts and half-breeds, the former radical but conservative, and the latter moderate and liberal. These two parties would remain in the North until the modern day, with the stalwarts moving further left after influence from the Socialist Party, and the half-breeds remaining centrist and liberal. The Nationals in the South would become right-wing and nationalist, but the Liberals would become extremist and pro-segregation until the end of the Jim Crow era, where it would switch to right-wing populism because segregation was no longer a viable political strategy. Meanwhile, the West is mostly run by radicals until 1896, which sees the Populists, a left-wing agrarian populist party, make gains in the region. By 1912, the Populists have a huge amount of power in the region, only losing in Utah, where the radicals, now conservative, have a stronghold. This continues until 2016, with the Populists always winning every state except Utah and occasionally Wyoming. Then in 2016, Gary Johnson propels the Libertarians to victory in New Mexico, putting the Libertarians as a major threat. The Radicals merge with the Libertarians to form a stronger coalition, a conservative coalition, against the dominant Populists, forming the Conservative Party. Capital C in this instance. So here's a summary of the parties at present. In the North, we have the Stalwarts, a radical and almost socialist party under President Elizabeth Warren, and the Half-Breeds, a liberal and nearly center-right party under former Mayor Michael Bloomberg. This leads to that presidential debate encounter between Warren and Bloomberg, which obviously destroys Bloomberg's candidacy, because Warren's a great debater. In the South, the Nationals, a conservative party under Nikki Haley, and the Liberals, a right-wing populist party under President Donald Trump, who leaves New York for Mar-a-Lago after losing the 2000 half-breed nomination, kind of a reference to his OTL Reform Party candidacy there, which obviously did very poorly. But this is kind of similar to on our timeline, the 2024 Republican primaries. You got Nikki Haley versus Donald Trump. And then in the West, the Conservatives, a merger of the Radicals and Libertarians, are under Mitt Romney. They found the closest margin since 1912 against the left-wing populist Peoples under Kamala Harris, who, in this timeline, she's going to be a little bit further left. This is my alternate history. It's pretty interesting to note that the North and the West would skew left. You really have very centrist and a left-wing party, not very far right or anything. And the South is hard right. But I mean, that's pretty expected. The South has always been hard right, and the North and West have always been more progressive. But who would have guessed Idaho would be the most solidly left-wing in this new world? I mean, that's, yeah, because of the left-wing populists are very agrarian. And then the Civil War also happens 4 years early. I mean, butterfly effect will do that to you. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to spread peace and love. DJ out.